All right, guys. Welcome to the Young Hustlers Mastermind. Today we're going to be masterminding the strangest secret. We've got my two super cool friends here, AJ Maida from North Carolina, and we've got rock star Bryan Casella out in California. So, guys, let's kind of maybe hit the agenda real quick and talk about before we hop into the mastermind. How did you guys do these numbers and things like that?
You're breaking up on my end. I didn't hear you.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. How did you guys do with your numbers this last week?
You want me to go first?
Yeah, Bryan.
Sure. Overall, I think this week we did, I want to say it was just under 230 contacts, 2 new listings. I had one closing get pushed back, but it was a really good week for us, you know. And the one thing I wanted to say that I had texted you guys earlier is a lot of people don't track their numbers, and that little stat I gave you about going door to door, just that stat alone gave me another boost because I'm thinking, hey, you know, the doors work, but you really, until you break it down to that number, like what did I text you guys? It was like $416 an hour or something, and I think, honestly, I think that's a little conservative because I undershot a little bit the commission that we made. So, you know, when you talk about these numbers and you really analyze it, not only is, you know, tracking the contacts and all that important, but when you really start analyzing it, who do you know that makes over $400 an hour? So basically every no that I'm getting at the door constitutes to over $40. And what other business can you do that, man? That's beautiful. So I just wanted to say that because I know a lot of people watching, maybe you're discouraged prospecting or whatever, but when you break it down, you know, it really brings up, you know, something that's hidden that you didn't see. And I didn't even know that. This is my first time really breaking it down, and it's crazy.
Yeah, congrats on that. What was it, $411 you texted?
I think it was like 416 or something like that.
416. That's awesome, man. Congrats. Yeah, this has been a pretty solid week for me. I spent about 10 hours prospecting and made in that amount of time about, I think it was 116 contacts. The biggest win of the week was met with a small builder. Just went back today and got the first listing signed, and it sounds like I'll be listing a few lots for him right now that are his personal lots that he doesn't want to build on anymore. Then another waterfront property next week. So that should be about $700,000 worth of business, which is pretty cool. And then my wife, who works as a buyer's agent, she put 2 buyers under contract. So overall, a good solid week. 2 for 2 on listing appointments, and small builder added to the clientele, and a couple buyers under contract. Solid week.
Awesome.
Nice. I was just trying to look up that number that Bryan was said, except for mine would obviously be on the phones. And how well do you know your numbers like that, AJ, like Bryan knows it?
Yeah, I use that number as analyzer, so I have all mine pinpointed.
What's yours right now per contact and per hour prospecting, you know?
I'll have to pull it up. But
yeah,
it's
let's
in
pull
there.
those up mine too, real quick. So my week, I feel really good. I feel like my head's starting to get clear from the move, and although I did learn something big, as I text you guys, I went 0 for 5 on my last 5 listing presentations, which I can't remember those. So what it's caused me to go back and do is just really focus on listing and to really just focus on closing for the signature hard. So that's what I've been working on. And what's funny is it's like getting back on the bike and learning it again, because I've realized that so much of my business was referral this year that I kind of got lazy in having to overcome that objection. It was just people were just giving it to me. You know what I mean? So that's my big thing, but I still haven't. I actually did take 1 listing this week. It was actually my assistant's son is moving to Alaska for a restation military. So nothing, you know, I mean, I'm glad we got it, but we'll obviously give him a discount and help him out. But I did have a $1,400 or $1,500 phone call yesterday that I told you guys about. That was cool. Just prospecting people I've done business with. The one guy bought a lot from another guy that I knew. So literally it was just negotiated over the phone in about 20 or 30 minutes, and then I wrote up the contract and got it signed. So that's kind of cool.
Sweet.
So I got it up. Here's my listing appointment ratio dropped big time. I was about 87%. I'm down to 76.5% right now. Hours income per hour prospected for me is $442, and income per contact is $46.80 right now.
Dang.
So
you guys are crushing it. I'm at 267 on income per hour prospected and 26 per contact. And a lot of that is probably because I'm getting a lot more people calling me referrals. So my prospecting hours are down this year as opposed to last year. I think last year I was up over 300 on that. I'd have to check that though. But one thing's cool from last year, because I do get a lot more people calling me now for referrals. I'm actually at 83% for listings taken, and last year I was at like 60% because last year half my business was expired. So because of that, this year only 10% of my business is expired. So my closing ratios went up by about 20%, which is cool.
Nice. Very cool.
Nice. Okay. Let's see here. Dude, so, yeah, I'm at 76%. What are you at, Bryan?
I think I'm at 87%.
87%? So, dang, I'm the freaking the loser right now.
Well, your 0 for 5 streak probably didn't help that number.
Yeah, before that I could probably take those numbers out, I'll tell you. So I was close to 87% before that happened.
You'll get your mojo back.
Actual days prospect, do you know actual days and actual hours you guys have done prospecting this year?
Let me take a look real quick. I have done...
So my days prospected this year is 96 days, not counting this week. So this week puts me over 100. And then 293 hours prospected, not counting this week. So that puts me, I'm guessing I'm right around 15 for the week. I haven't added it up yet. So that's going to put me 308 hours for the year prospected, which I'm averaging up to the end of last week, 15.76 hours per week prospecting. That's a huge victory for me. I'm averaging 149 contacts weekly. I'm averaging setting 6.77 appointments per week. Averaging, this number sucks for me, averaging the appointments gone on per week and averaging 1.4 listings taken per week. I was close to 1.7 earlier this year, so that's dropped dramatically in the second quarter.
I'm at 92 days prospected this year, 330 hours prospected. I'm averaging 2 appointments a week, averaging going on 1.2, 1.23 a week. Listings taken, I'm just under a listing a week, so I'm at like 0.9.
Nice.
I need to update my tracker, but I'm at, for listing appointments, my numbers actually probably looks like it increased.
You just dropped out.
Just dropped out, AJ.
Well, his numbers must be that bad, it dropped his connection.
Yeah, he just got cut off, man. He was that embarrassed. I feel bad for him. Yeah, I'm glad he didn't get embarrassed online with his numbers. He just got dropped off ahead of time.
That's funny.
All right, well, let's talk about the book, The Strangest Secret. I'm glad that I went back and really just made it a point to go through that this week. And one of the things that really wanted me to do that is, man, you've been always sending us your pictures of your books you've been reading. I feel like that I slacked off this last month of really building my mindset and reading books, so it's really got me back on track, so I appreciate that. What is it, your number one takeaway?
You know, one of the lines that hit me the hardest and the biggest takeaway definitely was when he said, in order to become successful in whatever you're doing, you first have to become a success. And you know, I remember, you know, it really brought me back to when I got in the business, and I remember my old broker was always talking about mindset and, you know, building your inner game. And prior to being in the industry, I never really looked at self-improvement, or I kind of thought it was a joke. You know, I thought, hey, you know, I'm confident, I got it all together. I really didn't think or put a big importance on it. And, you know, very quickly I realized that mentally I was kicking my own ass. So, you know, hearing that line and that portion of it really, you know, brought me back to those days of me being naive. And I think, like we've discussed on the other masterminds, how far I've come in less than 2 years, and it's incredible. And I know, you know, my success has been because internally I've tuned myself to being successful. You know, I've taken the proper steps. I've adopted the mindset. You know, I've taken all the steps necessary in order to get to where I'm at now. And had I not, you know, even if I had I guess you can say a luck streak and gotten listings and started to get a flow, I would have imploded because, you know, mentally I wasn't ready to take that on. So that was definitely the biggest takeaway for me, and that was definitely a point that hit me the hardest. And you know, I think it's absolutely true. You know, you know, when he said it, it just immediately brought all those images into my mind. I'm like, you know what? He's absolutely right, 100%.
Said for a long time from that book, you do become what you think about most of the time, and it's so true. But you think about it, there's a macro level of thinking about things, and then there's a micro level, right? The macro level is that Shimahao? Is that mate you're drinking?
Yeah.
I love it. Straight from the Argentina.
Yep.
That's cool, man. I thought that tasted. I drank it when I was in southern Brazil, and that stuff tastes like you're drinking alfalfa, man. But that's cool if you like it. Maybe you have some flavored stuff. What is it, a flavored kind?
No, it's just, I like it bitter, dude. A lot of people put sugar in it, but I just like it straight.
Do you go hot water?
Hot, always.
Yeah. In when I was on my mission in southern Brazil, right next to Argentina, all the time they would drink. It's called a cuia, that they call it in Brazil, and they would carry their cuia around with their bomba. That's the straw, and their hot water tank all day long, sucking that shit. No, that's cool, man. I don't care for the taste, but I haven't seen it in a while. It makes me happy. So I forgot what I was even saying. Sorry, I got off on the Shimahao here.
Become what you think about.
Thing. Oh, you become what you think about. So there's the macro level and the micro level. The micro level, which I know that I overlook a lot of time, which is how much are you thinking about your listing presentation or your prospecting script, or like I'm going through it right now. It caused me to really get focused. How much am I visualizing my closes and making sure that I'm great at it? Because if you don't use it, you lose it, right? So where I've stopped using it, I haven't had to. I was like a deer in the headlights with simple objections this last 5 appointments, and I was like, frick. So there's that macro and the micro side that I realized from it.
What were the objections you got, by the way? I'm curious.
We're going to meet with some other agents, stupid ones like that. The other one was my friend is an agent doing it at 5%. Like, just stuff that is I literally was like, oh, okay, that's cool, so you'll let me know. It's like, what the So I went back and I wrote the objection track handle back up on my whiteboard, and that's all I've been role-playing right now, is to handle objections. And one of them was the think about it one, which is a stall that is like the easiest one, in my opinion, to handle. And I was just like, what do you mean you got to think about it? What's the freaking think about? Sign the contract, right? And
right.
Yeah. So
you gotta get role-playing with Derek again, huh?
I know, I got it, dude. Forces me. I did a role play with Rodney Mills this morning, and he really pushed me to do it well. And I've been role playing here at the office with Garrett, and just breaking it down and analyzing it and writing it down and getting clear on it again. AJ, what was your biggest takeaway from the book?
So one of the things that I love is in the 30-day challenge, where he's talking about writing your number one goal on like an index card, and on the back writing, I have it here highlighted somewhere, basically the Bible verse. I don't know where it's at in this book, but so really what I took away is kind of like in Gary Keller's book, The One Thing. Earl Nightingale's talking about taking your one most important goal and focusing on that goal with all your energy, as opposed to having several different goals and not putting that intense focus into just one. So that was big for me because I'm the type of person that loves goal setting, and I like to have a lot of goals, and I set goals in all areas of life. And I think that's important, but I love what he said about just take that one, put it on a card, stick it in your pocket, look at it morning, afternoon, and night, and you know, you become what you think about most, so that goal will soon come to pass. And he talks about it, as soon as it's written, it's already yours, you know. So I thought that was pretty neat. And I also liked what he talked about, what his definition of success was, you know, the progressive realization of a worthy idea. And a man who sets a goal and begins the process of working towards that goal, you've already become a successful person, which is cool because, you know, growing up and still now, it's always like, you know, I want to be successful, which to me prior to reading this again for the second, third, fourth time was, you know, to be a millionaire. That was success to me. But now, after reading this, you know, success is, well, it's the goal to become a millionaire, and then now that I'm working towards it, I'm already successful, and now that I'm successful, then the money comes, which is pretty cool. So it's a little mindset shift.
Yeah, that was one of the things I put in my video this last week. Well, we're stuck on Bryan here. Turn him off. One of the things I put in my video this last week was, sorry, I was trying to fix those videos. I put in my video about how you only become rich after you become successful, right? And
Right.
on that it's not about making a lot of money and not about being rich. So, yeah, I like that point that you brought up. So what is it? Here's a question. Why do people in our industry not succeed in being successful? Do you think that is?
Well, I'll take that first. One of the main things that, you know, he spoke about was having the clear goal. A lot of people generalize. They say, you know, I guarantee if you talk to 100 realtors, 90 of them will say, I want to make $1 million. But out of those 100, maybe one or two, which would be us in that circle, have a clearly defined goal. It's like Earl said, you can't just, you know, tell a plane to take off and not give it a destination. You know, you need to have a clear, precise goal that you look at all the time. And going back to what Colton said about the note card, I remember when I first listened to The Strangest Secret, I did that with the Audi that I bought. And I had that card with me at all times when I was door knocking, when I was making calls. And from the moment I wrote it down on the card, I think two and a half months later, I bought that car. The exact same car that I had in my pocket, like same color, same grill, same rims, like literally identical. So, and that's the missing link, I think, is people will have kind of a general goal, but they don't have a specific goal, you know, as far as, okay, I'm going to make this many contacts, I want to do this many deals, I want to make this much commission, I want this and that. And people don't really make that specific goal, because when you don't do that, you can't reverse engineer. You know, like we're tracking our numbers. We know we make X amount of contacts, we'll get a deal. And you can always say, all right, I want to do 10 deals this month. I get a deal every 20 contacts. Let's make 200 contacts this week or this month. And people don't take that extra, it's that extra little effort to really write that precise goal. And I think that's what's missing, is people are missing that last little step to really, you know, at least lay the path down for them to be successful.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, I'd say probably most agents probably don't even have a goal, you know. And if you go by Earl's definition, he says, you know, so it's working towards that predetermined goal and know where he's going. That man is a success. And what he's saying, if you don't have a goal, then you're automatically a failure. So according to this book, if you don't even have a goal, you're already a failure. And I would say probably 9 out of 10 agents probably don't even have that goal set written down somewhere.
So in a nutshell, it's basically because agents do not define what success is for them. You've got to create your definition of success, whether it's, you know, for an agent, if it's doing 50 deals a year, okay, well, you got to get more in depth than that. Where are those 50 transactions going to come from? What percentage is going to come from your SOI, from expires, FSBOs, people farm? Then once you figure that, okay, if I'm going to generate 25 deals from my SOI a year, how am I going to get those 25? How many people do I need to talk to? What's the marketing campaign I need to put in place to generate those leads and brand? And so it's getting really crystal clear on what it is that you want to accomplish. And that could be getting clear in any realm of your life, spiritually, mentally, physically, socially, and financially, and being able to just say, okay, part of your success could be this, right? I think this resonates with AJ because I think Bryan outworks both of us. He's a workaholic. But AJ, I know you want to take time off to go be on the lake, right? So your success, part of your plan might be, I'm going to spend X number of days up at the lake with the boat, right? Or for me, it's going to be, I'm going to spend X amount of time with my wife and daughter with the phone off. That's got to be a part of your plan, and it's got to be tracked.
Right.
Right, and I don't know if you guys remember that part in the book where he says you could knock on 100 doors and talk to 100 men and ask them, why do you wake up every morning and do what you do, and only one of them has an answer for you, and the other 99 say because the next guy's doing it. And I think that's how a lot of agents, they go to the office, they see guys sipping coffee, not doing anything, and they just jump on the boat and say, okay, this is what I'm supposed to do, instead of taking that step back and coming up with a plan and then going after it, or coming up with their own goal that comes from within instead of just doing what everybody else does.
Yeah.
100%.
Shoot, I wish I would have freaking forgot my notes, and that pisses me off at my house. I literally sat down Monday night, and I would stop it, and I'd write notes and start it and write notes. And there was a lot of cool things that I had written down enough to review again tonight.
One of the things that I thought was interesting was he said out of 100 men, 5 will be financially stable by the age of 65. 54 will be dead broke, and then the other, 37 will be struggling. I thought that was interesting because that's true. They always talk about the 5%, the 5% of people that are extremely successful or at least have their stuff together. And that's so true. Think about 100 people How many of those 100 are, financially stable or taking the steps necessary to get there? Most people are just going around blind, like the masses, like, hey, I'm going to go work my 9 to 5 because that's what everybody else is doing. And just that portion in the beginning of the audio or the book really opened my eyes, and I was like, wow, that's so true. One of them will be wealthy, the other 4 will be stable, and then the other 95 are struggling. And there has to be that reason why that one is wealthy and the 4 are financially stable. And then as he explains it, it's interesting. But just that statistic alone really opened my eyes, and it's true. Because what we're doing, us 3 and the other small percentage that's successful, we're modeling what other successful people are doing, and the other 95% is just doing what everyone else does and working the 9 to 5 and they don't really have a plan. So just that, I wanted to bring that out because that really opened my eyes. I replayed that like 3 times. I was like, wow, really 5%? Only 1 will be wealthy and the other 4 will be stable? That's insane.
Oh, that was the. Can you guys hear me, or did I lose everyone?
Yeah,
we can hear you.
I lost everyone for a second. So that was the other thing. How many times in that book is calm and cheerful, right? Have a life that's calm and cheerful. And if we're frustrated and have any fear of doubt or worry in our mind, immediately go to our card and get those feelings of calm and cheerful. That's one of the biggest things I've learned over the last 3 to 4 years is remember to feel good. And I never noticed that in this book at how many times he said, be calm and cheerful.
Yeah, the other thing I pulled that I thought was big was how Earl speaks about your mind literally cultivating whatever you put in it. So it doesn't care what you put in it, but it will reproduce and give back what you put in. So if you're constantly feeding negative thoughts and energy and vibrations into your mind, your world will manifest. And he said, where you're at now is what you were thinking about and planting in your mind 30, 60 days ago. So today and yesterday I was rewinding in my mind, I've gotten recently, like in the last, I want to say week and a half, 2 weeks, like 3, 4 new listings. We're closing 2 or 3 more and things are picking up. But I remember when I picked up that book, The Secrets of the Millionaire Mind, 3, 4 weeks ago, and I read it like instantly. I started planting more positive, wealth-guided seeds into my mind, and now it's manifesting because I'm making more money, getting more business, and just that seeing it, hearing it from Earl again, and then taking a step back and saying, okay, where am I at today? And then thinking, okay, I was thinking those thoughts. It's pretty cool to make the connection. you know, getting the knowledge from him and then making the connection. And I see, hey, that's true. I've been planting positive, you know, seeds into my mind, and then it's manifesting 30, 60 days later. So it's a constant process. And I can think back to a year or two ago when I was thinking negatively, frustrated, and feeding all that negativity into my mind. It was manifesting into my world. So I thought that was another big thing. You know, people are running on autopilot, and they're not conscious of what they're feeding into their mind. And the more we feed these positive things, and you know, we spend time with each other, share knowledge from books, think positively, you know, it manifests, and we're closing deals and making money. So I think that's pretty cool.
Well, here's what's cool going along that lines is where he talked about no matter what you plant, if you plant a positive seed or a negative seed, if you plant, I can't remember what he used in the book now. One of them was like nightshade was the weed or whatever. What was the positive plant that he talked about? Corn or something, right? Either one you plant is going to grow and produce in abundance, right? So it doesn't matter if it's positive or negative. This is an abundant world, and whatever you plant is not only just going to come back, it's going to come back abundantly, right? So if you do have, it's going to come back abundantly. You're going to have an abundant crop of nightshade, which is just a filthy, nasty weed.
Poison.
Poison, yeah. So that was kind of triggered in my mind to realize it doesn't matter. We just plain live in an abundant world. You just have to focus positive or negative, and it's going to be abundant.
And what I really like about the book too is that he actually gets to the second part of it, which is work. You know, so you can do all this visualization, but if you don't actually, you know, put work in, you're not going to receive anything. You know, he says a lot of times through the second half of the book, do more than you have to do, you know, in your job. And he says if you're a salesman, you have to go at it like you've never done before. He says, and then back to your point, Colton, not in a hectic fashion, but calm and cheerful, with the assurance that the time spent will give you an abundance return for your time. You know, so he's big in talking, you reap what you sow, what you put in, you get out. So it's not just about sitting around looking at your little card that you wrote. It's about putting in more work that you might not have ever put in before. He's talking about, you know, 10xing what you're currently doing, ultimately to achieve that abundance.
Here's a question I have for you guys. On the Fearless Agent group, I told you that video, right? And one of the things that Bryan brought up that I didn't really think of in the book, but I know I've thought of it previously, is in the book, The Strangest Secret, Earl says, you are exactly where you want to be, basically, right? And that was one of the things that Bryan said he completely disagreed with. What are your guys' thoughts on that? Are people, are agents, are men exactly where they want to be? And he even brought up the far-fetched, far-out example of, you know, Nazis and Jews in Nazi Germany. Like, did they really want to be in a concentration camp? And so, what are your thoughts on that phrase, men are where they want to be?
That's an easy one. I mean, of course there's going to be exceptions to the rule like that. I mean, if you got pulled as a little kid into a camp, you had no control over that. There's always going to be, I think, a small number of exceptions to whatever it is that we're talking about. But, I mean, I made a video about it. Basically, you get what you deserve, or a man is where he's at because it's where he wants to be. And I think that's true. Any position you're in right now, you know, anybody watching could be in a maybe not so good financial position or mentally or whatever it is. You can take the necessary steps to get out of it. However, you like the example I gave about being overweight. Unless you have a genetic disorder, this was an accumulation of choices you made to get to where you're at today. It wasn't last night you had a six-pack and today you have a big beer gut. You know, this thing was a process. So if you started in real estate and, you know, 3 months later you were working your tail off, you're going to have some results. Now, if you weren't and you were being lazy, you're going to feel it 3 months later. So I completely agree with that statement. Yes, there will be the exceptions, like the little kid getting pulled into the camp. I mean, you can't really stop that. But I completely agree with it. I mean, you are where you are today because of the choices you've made in the past. Now, that just is a reflection of your mind and what you've done. And I completely agree with it 100%.
So, what are your take, AJ?
Yeah, I mean, you know, the way I interpret that is a little bit different. You know, because even now, like, you know, I want to be a millionaire, but I'm not a millionaire right now. I'm taking action to get me there. But, you know, if that was 100% true, I'd currently be a millionaire. So I more or less believe, yes, your thoughts, your actions, the things that you do have you currently where you are, of course, but not necessarily people choose. I mean, like Bryan, your example, someone that's heavy, well, they might want to be skinny, but they don't have that. They're just too lazy, so they just don't have what it takes to become skinny, but they may want it. Does that make sense?
No, totally. That makes sense.
So here's Garrett, when I was talking to him about that comment, here's how that you're in with your current situation, and it reminded me of, you guys ever heard of a book called 7 Years in Hanoi? And we just lost it again.
Yes.
You've heard of that book, right? And so
Yeah.
7 Years in Hanoi is about Vietnam War veteran who was 7 years as a prisoner of war, and in there, his mindset of how he was he was so crystal clear on playing, the golf game, that he came back and played the best golf game ever. So I like that, how Garrett brought that up to me, was it's having how you can create the best of what you have to deal with in that current moment, right? You could be in a plane that's going down in the middle of the Atlantic, and it's probably a pretty fearful thing, but it's what you have to deal with, and you have a choice to either embrace those last few moments or be a complete wreck, right? However, going on a deeper topic, which a lot of people will probably disagree with me on this, start Africa. That's kind of a similar situation to the Jews in Nazi Germany, right? I do believe that they are where they chose to be, right? I have this belief, and he even says this in the book, that the Creator built a stairway to somewhere. We came from somewhere, and we're going somewhere. And you can't, AJ, how well do you remember what happened to you a week ago?
Pretty well.
How well do you remember what happened to you 15 years ago?
Not very good.
How about 25 years ago?
Not at all.
And how old are you now, AJ?
28.
28. How well do you remember what was going on 30 years ago?
I wasn't even born.
But you came from somewhere, right? You're here conversing with me. And
right.
So why would you ever extinct and just disappear? Just like you make choices now, you have an energy, a type of on past experiences and how you reprogram your mind or your energy or your consciousness. You were doing that same thing, in my opinion, 30 years ago. And before you were born into a human life, you were making choices that more than likely dictated where you were put onto this mortal existence. It wasn't just by chance that you were born in Michigan or wherever you were naturally born. It wasn't by chance Bryan being in Argentina. We made those choices to be in our exact situations on this earth. And that's my take on it. People may completely disagree with that, but I believe we've always had choice from even before we were born on earth.
Yeah, that's a little deep and crazy. It's an interesting thing. My take on that would be I was born where I am because God blessed me to live in this amazing country of America. But I don't think I really had any choice over that. But I see what you're saying. But at the same time, I mean, if that's 100% true, even excluding the things that are out of your control, like the Nazi camps, Colton, I know you have much bigger goals than where you're at right now, and you want to be there, but why aren't you there right now? If that rang true,
because that totally rings true in the sense I am where I want to be. Otherwise, I would have spent my time differently, working on the seeds differently. I would have been doing my garden differently. And there are some variables that play into that. What you don't know, right? So I can't plant seeds to be a millionaire that I don't even know exist. Does that make sense? So now that I'm starting to actually grow and believe that there's a better crop for me to plant, I believe I am exactly where I want to be. I wouldn't be here. I would be doing something. I would have a different spouse, or maybe not even have a spouse. I would be prospecting FSBOs more aggressively like I used to, or whatever, right? I think you are exactly where you want to be, or you would have been in a different place.
Yeah, I can see that. I can see what you're saying with that.
So you're on this mastermind because you wanted to be on this mastermind, right? You could have been somewhere else and not been on this mastermind, but you chose to be here.
Well, I love you guys, but I'd much rather be on vacation in Thailand right now.
Me too. But you're not. You're here, right? So you'd rather be here because you're not in Thailand. Because what does it take to Thailand? A plane ticket and a visa that you get there?
Right, and that's where I plan on going in December for a couple of weeks. But it just takes work and planting those seeds now to get there. So
think about it. No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. If you truly wanted to be in Thailand today, you could be there. But you're saying I can't go till December because I've got to hit some goals with my business and earn a certain amount of money to where I can take time off. But if you truly, really wanted to be in Thailand, you could be there right now. You get online, you purchase a plane ticket, and you fly there.
Right, I would just have to sacrifice other things. I see what you're saying.
Yes, because you'd have to sacrifice. So it means you're not willing to give that up to go to Thailand. That means you want this more in this moment.
Okay, I'm following you on that. I can agree with that.
And I'm completely sober right now, guys, so could you imagine if I wasn't?
Marijuana is still illegal in Utah, Colton.
Yeah, exactly. However, ever since I've had PTSD, I'm excited for legal medical marijuana next spring. So, yeah, that's what I'm doing.
Nice. We should mastermind in Colorado next time.
We totally should. About 2 hours in after we've each had a giant edible brownie. That's what we should do.
Nice.
I'm down.
You'll be sipping on your Shimahao and eating throwing back lemon drops for 6 hours straight.
I can see it now.
So, yeah, I truly believe we are exactly where we want to be, or we would do something else.
Yeah, within limitations.
Your limitations, right, that you create.
Right, of course. Of course.
Limitations
it may take time.
But there are limitations for a reason, right? Because we have choices. For example, if I picked up and went to Thailand today by myself, that probably would not fare well with my family, right? So you have to decide, what's more important for you.
Right. So
now we're silent.
Do we have any questions, or I haven't even looked?
We do have a bunch of questions.
They probably think we're all nuts.
They're like, What the hell is Colton? Is he freaking on drugs?
Yeah, the whole thing. I never heard of thought process before you were born. That's a new one for me.
Well, here's something that resonates with you, AJ. You're a Christian. You believe in God, right?
Right.
You're a child of God. Is God not omnipotent and all powerful and infinite?
That's
and if
correct.
you're His offspring, why are you not all powerful and omnipotent and infinite? Why would you be different than what your source is?
Because I'm not God. That would be the reason.
Yeah, but you're a child of God, right?
Right, but He didn't create humans to be equal to God.
Maybe He did, maybe He didn't. That's another debate, too.
I don't know. That could be probably figured out pretty quick through reading the Bible.
Yeah, it could be in the Bible. Proverbs 84:6, right? Ye are children of the Most High. Ye are children of God. It was spoken pretty clearly. We are children of God. We are gods in the sense that if you tap into God and His complete source energy, which in my opinion is love, God's love, and you just give that in a massive amount of abundance in creating value for other people, it's amazing what you can create. You can have godlike powers of changing the world just through love itself. Does that make sense? I wish I was at that level. I'm clearly not. I'm a real estate agent that sells homes in Utah and talks on Masterminds.
But you could be there if that's what you wanted.
It could be if I really wanted to be. Yeah, but I don't. I want to be here with you guys talking about it.
Well, I appreciate that.
But I mean, I truly do believe that we came from somewhere, we're going somewhere, and that being a child of God isn't a physical thing, it's a spiritual thing. And I believe that you're always going to in that spiritual form. But I can't remember well 30 years ago, that's for sure.
What questions are in the queue, Colton?
Oh yeah. Can you speak more about the numbers analyzer? Jeremy Crit asked that, and he also said he had another one. Oh no, that was someone else. So I'm not sure what else to talk about the numbers analyzer except for know your numbers. Here's a good question about the numbers analyzer. AJ, why is it important for you to have a numbers analyzer?
Because it makes my business predictable, repeatable. But more important than that, when I can actually look, like Bryan did, and Bryan texted us today, what he makes per hour at the door. When I'm struggling with just grinding it out on the phones or whatever it might be, or maybe I'm down because maybe a deal fell apart. If I can look back at my numbers that are currently producing massive success in my life, I mean, that's a big motivator. I mean, you're pretty unstoppable when you're reviewing something like that makes you $200, $300, $400 an hour. I mean, it just gets me on fire to go do it.
Yeah.
So, and if anyone's interested in Numbers Analyzer, shoot me an email, ajmight@kw.com. I have those available for sale.
Yeah, that was actually one of the questions from, I'm not sure how to say this, so I apologize, Ronaldo Bojero. I don't know how to say that. Borrero. So he had that question. So you guys can email AJ Maida to get your copy, which I highly recommend. For me, it's powerful in the sense I've heard a lot of Mike Ferry coaching clients say, I hate getting on the phone and telling my coach numbers I made up or him always asking my numbers. I don't think they get the concept of it. Maybe I'm not sure how they – did you coach with them or did you not, Bryan?
Yeah, I did.
How was it? How did they use the numbers analyzer for your coaching calls?
Yeah, well, at the end of the day, I know, and this is a fact, what you measure improves. So I was happy to do the numbers analyzer because the more I did it, the better my numbers got. Yeah,
I don't know how they did it or how they asked you what their accountability structure is because I haven't coached with Mike Ferry's organization. But I do know if you don't see the value in it, your mindset's off. Because to me, it's not about having to keep you accountable. It's about if I'm going to do the work because I want to get paid, right? There's no question for any one of you two other guys on this mastermind, you're going to go to work, right? But what I'm able to do is take the last 90 days and look at my business and see where I've had my positives and my negatives and find out how can I take and increase my negatives to a positive. For right now, struck out on 5 freaking listing appointments, so then where do I automatically need to go? My presentation. Once it's in my presentation, which part of there do I need to improve on? My closes, because I haven't even been given them a pen to write the damn name on their contract. So that's, to me, the value of the numbers analyzer is where do I need to improve so that my business increases with its predictability.
Right. You can put a microscope, basically.
And what's cool at the end of the year, you can actually set a business plan based on facts. So if you do X, 100% without any uncertainty that you're going to accomplish your goals. It's proven. It's proven. You've proven it to yourself over time.
Mm-hmm.
So that's pretty cool.
Super cool. Super cool. Okay. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say another thing that I've really been doing this year is also tracking my business sources. My first 2 years in real estate is primary prospecting expireds. But now that I'm, investing in other lead sources, it's really tracking my ROI on my money. So that's been pretty powerful, seeing that as well. For like my pay-per-click advertising, what my ROI is, things like that.
Well, Bryan, Millionaire Mind Intensive in August. Have you been, AJ, to the MMI?
No, but that book is awesome. Top 3. If you haven't read it, you got to read it.
Secret of the Millionaire Mind by T. Harv Eker.
That's one that you got to read that once a year. I've read that twice. It's amazing. I need to get to that workshop.
Maybe what we should do in the future is I'll read it in a week and then mastermind that book. That would be super cool, Mastermind.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
like in that book, and Bryan brought it up a minute ago, is you what, and this might be a bold law. I've never gone through KW bold, but I've heard people say it. What you focus on expands, right? That's just, and so if you're focused on your numbers, tracking them, it talks about this in The Secret of the Millionaire Mind. What you track, you focus on, and what you focus on, where energy flows to that. So one of the things that I started in fall of 2012 was I started tracking two things. One was my net worth, and two was my passive income. And in those 3 years, it's freaking cool to look back and see how my net worth has grown dramatically, and also my passive and my residual income. Because passive is definitely different than residual, but tracking that and having that grow, and it's been exploding even more so in the last 12 months than it has even the previous 24 before that. So track it, it grows. Track it, improves.
What you focus on expands, man. That's right. It's a bold law.
I thought it was a bold law.
Probably not created by KW, but definitely a bold law.
Yeah. And by the way, just if you guys need a sponsor as you're coming over to KW, AJ sponsored me, so you can thank him for me being a part of the KW family.
We're thankful to have you, Colton.
No, I really do. I actually was talking to...
Well, actually, back up for a second, Colton. If you need a sponsor for KW, reach out to Colton, because now he's in my downline, and we want to build his downline.
Oh, perfect. Awesome. I don't know quite how the whole downline thing works, but I do know that I enjoy being here with this type of environment. Getting fired was the absolute best thing that could have happened for me and my family and my business. And because it caused me to make a change that ultimately I probably should have made sooner.
Yeah, I think, just kind of off topic, but I think it was a great thing, a blessing in disguise in your life, Colton. I think, you're going to do huge things in this industry, bigger things than you're currently doing, and I think KW is going to be the platform to really get you that next level in your coaching career. And did I drop? I'm still here.
Back there.
Okay.
There.
Yeah, to get to the next level.
Going on, huh?
Yeah, I don't know what's going on, but yeah, it's going to help you get to your next level. It's a great platform to help you build your business and your coaching business in the future.
Yeah, I'm super excited about that and where it's going. The opportunities for ownership locally, the opportunities to own, expanding. There's just so many cool things. Even, opportunities so far. Well, actually, this was kind of coming before, but, the opportunities if I wanted to go into MAPS coaching and coach there, there's just so much potential. And then, actually, it's weird because it's like a giant cult, right? Keller Williams is the cult in real estate. And these cult members of Keller Williams are just so nice to you no matter what part of the country you're in, right? It's like they're the same thing as Mormons. They're just super nice to you all over the world. So that's cool, which I don't even know. That's so powerful about an organization, in my opinion.
Right. Yeah, it's a family. I was just listening to an interview that Jay Papazan, co-author of The Millionaire Real Estate Agent and The One Thing in Millionaire Real Estate Investor. Apparently, KW is about 31 years old, and 15 years ago there was only about 6,700 agents. Now there's over 113,000. In the last 15 years, we grew by over 100,000 agents. That says a lot about the culture and about the opportunity.
Yeah, it is a powerful company. Let's get some questions here. Jeremy Critt had asked earlier, is there a difference between using Docusign and paper contracts? Docusign is quicker?
I'm old school. I still like having people sign the paper. Eventually, even if people are more techie that I've dealt with, I still always get the initial contract always signed, ink on paper. I just think it's better, and personally, that's just the way I go. Maybe I'm old school, but I have no problem once I have the listing to do it in Docusign. But maybe it's just the feeling I get. I like having the papers there and having them sign and handed on the pen. I think it's the best feeling.
Docusign or .loop is
still
nice.
The initial. You don't have them do Docusign at the appointment, though, do you, AJ?
No, I'll do ink at the appointment, but if whenever possible, signing offers and everything, it's done via electronically .loop.
Yeah, so I do everything, the first contract, listing contract, or buyer contract in person, in pen. After that, it's all Docusign, and we're probably going to switch over to .loop since we have to turn our files in that direction anyways. We just haven't done that yet. Although I do like the signatures through Docusign better than .loop. I hate that they have to have a password in .loop, and if they freaking forget the password and then you got to reset it, it's like, oh my god.
Yeah, I haven't seen that being a problem.
Bryan, how has the switch from C21? Any regrets? Has there been a major difference? Why not KW?
The switch has been amazing. My business has improved since making the switch. Any regrets? Absolutely not. Any major differences? Yeah, I mean, now that I'm with the independent company, it comes up sometimes during the appointment about the company, but it's an objection that is basically a smokescreen. So these guys, I'm sure, would be able to handle it with no problem. I've had maybe 1 or 2 issues with it at the appointment, but it's an easy objection to handle. Why not KW? I don't know. I mean, I've had at least 4 or 5 of those recruiters. They still call me to this day, like every 2 days. I don't know. I just decided to go with this company because I knew the broker, and honestly, they just seemed like a better fit for me. And there was no real preference as far as the companies that I chose, but it just seemed like a good fit for me, and that's why I did it.
You know what's funny? You bring that objection. I actually have more objections since I'm at Keller Williams than before that I hear like, oh, I've already talked to a Keller Williams agent, or our last agent was a Keller Williams agent, right? I actually get that objection way more than anything else.
Yeah, I get that too. I would say from an individual agent standpoint, it's up to your skills, man. Once you get in front of someone, it's not about what brokers you're with at all. And when you're prospecting, their KW is so big. I say, hi, this is AJ, my local real estate broker. I don't say, hi, this is AJ with Keller Williams Realty, because if another person called them from Keller Williams and it's an expired, they say, well, I already talked to Joe from KW, click. So
the good thing is not many agents, even at Keller Williams in my marketplace, actually prospect, so that's good.
Yeah, it's like me up in the north part of Charlotte, then like a solid team in the south part of Charlotte, and we interlap occasionally, but that's about it.
Okay, how effective is pay-per-click? Jeremy Critt had that question. And I want to also preface his question for you guys. He is an agent that's getting licensed, right? So keep that in mind when you respond to him, because I think your answer is differently to knowing that.
Yeah, I'm currently using it. I would never recommend it for any individual agent. It'd be a huge waste of money and time. If you have a team of buyer agents and you create systems that include lead follow-up and email campaigns, then it's highly effective. It just becomes a return on time and return on investment. But as a brand new agent, I wouldn't even look at paying any lead sources. I would just hit the phones and doors.
Yep.
Yeah. So that would be my advice for Jeremy. Don't even worry about it right now in your business. Charlie Santos asked, what are you driving your PPC advertising to? And maybe give a synopsis real quick of that.
It's to my website. That's it. So.
What are you doing to where, like, keyword PPC or remarketing PPC?
Yeah, so I use Real Estate Webmasters. They manage my PPC. It's all keywords, professionally managed. I don't mess around with that at all.
What does that cost per month?
You're breaking up a little bit, so I hope you can hear me. But the management cost on it's $300, and then I spend $1,000 a month on pay-per-click, and then the website's $200 a month. So I'm at $1,500 a month total, and that's generating about 100 leads a month. And our conversion rates right now are right around 3%. So if we get 100 leads, we're only converting 3 transactions. So it's a numbers game, just like anything else.
Yeah. So I don't do keywords. I'm not sure how that actually works, and we actually manage our stuff in-house for PPC, but we do remarketing ads, and we drive people to our website from Facebook mainly and our fan page. And we're doing, I don't know, I think between all leads coming in per month, now this isn't all from the website, but about between 60 and 70 leads per month coming in from either sign calls or the mainly the only other thing is the internet. Something called the internet.
I don't do pay-per-click, so that's a question for them.
He asked also about the DNC. How do you guys treat DNC?
I ignore it. I call. I mean, I remember pretty recently a FISBO that I closed. I called him originally because he was like 20, 30 minutes away from the office. Complete asshole on the phone. Went and I door knocked him, and he was a sweetheart. I ended up listing it and selling it in 24 hours. So ignore it, man. I mean, if they have a problem with it, or if you have any hesitation, just go to the door like I do. You'd be surprised. Just ignore it. I've gotten thousands of calls and contacts over the phone. I've maybe gotten 1 or 2 complaints, and I'll even give them my information. I'm like, you know what? Report me, please. And nothing's ever happened. So don't worry about it.
I think you should respect the DNC, but don't be afraid of it. And especially if you use the Mojo Sales Dialer, there is a DNC system built right into that. So if the fact, in the that you do, but at the same time, go to work, especially like a for sale by owner. That to me doesn't really classify for DNC because they're actually marketing their house for sale. And I happen to be in the real estate sales business. It's my job to be proactively staying in contact with the market is to find out more about their property. So I wouldn't be afraid of that at all. But respect it when people ask to be on the DNC. Don't badger them about it. And as many calls as I make, very rarely does anyone even bring up the do not call list. I would dare say maybe less than one person per month even mentions it to me. What about you? How often do you even hear it, Bryan?
Almost never. Every couple months, and I'm talking like thousands and thousands of calls, like just random calls too. And I maybe heard it 2 or 3 times since I started. So.
So Jeremy Chris said, I see your ad everywhere online. It is freaky. That's because you went to my website and I put a cookie on your computer, and now it looks like I'm advertising on the Wall Street Journal or something. Charlie Santos asked Colton, what other forms, and I just lost the question, sorry. What other lead gen are you doing? To me, I prospect my SOI, I prospect my past clients, my people farm, FISBOs, and expires, and then lastly I'll go to leads in. Garrett usually calls those. I usually don't do much of those, but that's basically what I do. And I just try to increase the amount of leads that we do have flowing in with the most cost-effective way. I don't do billboards. I don't do, these different boomtown or things like that. I don't spend money on that. So we've actually hit that 2:30 mark. We have a lot more questions, but I think we're going to have to leave them for future episodes. Anything final you guys want?
No, I mean, I thought this was good. Whenever we pick a topic like this, like a book or an audiobook that's powerful, I think, for other people to hear it is good. And for us, too, because it's a refresher course for a lot of the stuff we're learning. So, like you said, you went over 5, get back to the basics, get those fundamentals back in check, and then you move forward. So I think this is really good.
Anyone that's ever got great at anything mastered the basics. And so I guess the takeaway is what I've always said is you do become what you think about most of the time, but you can't just say that phrase. You literally have to ask the question, what is it I am thinking about in my life? And is it going to those thoughts? Are they the seeds that's going to create and manifest what I'd like to see 90 days from now? And so, yeah, tomorrow I just want to voice this out. Tomorrow at 10 a.m. Mountain Standard Time, another episode of Winning Series Interviews. Tomorrow I will be interviewing Fearless Agent founder and owner Bob Leffler. I also have some pretty cool interviews coming up. I've got Lee Barrison. You guys know from Bakersfield, California?
Yep. We'll play partner.
Oh, yeah, he's awesome. He'll be on here in a couple weeks, 2 more weeks. Then after that, I've got in July 11th, I believe, is Kevin Ward from Yes Masters. He will be a cool one to have on. And then I've been talking with Josh Smith from, what is it called? Get Shit Done Mode, I think is his website, GSD Mode, right? So we're trying to get an exact time schedule, but he said he's going to will be on the interview as well. So we've got some cool interviews coming up, guys. And also make sure to go to Bryan Casella and friend him on Facebook. He was complaining to us that he doesn't get enough friend requests, and so we'd like you to make him feel good and request a friend from him on Facebook and subscribe to his YouTube channel. AJ, go to his YouTube channel, Real Estate Agent on Fire. Subscribe to him. Anything you'd like to say, AJ? Oh, your sound's gone. And this is exactly why you should have learned sign language, just so you could sign what you needed to say to us. So go to realestateagentonfire.com. Get on his email list. He's got some cool things. You can visit me always at winningyourgame.com and join the Winner Circle. We appreciate you guys. Make sure you guys are taking your lives and your business to the next level. And I know you guys recognize this, but each and every day to us is a gift, in my opinion. And I appreciate that I get to spend my gifts with you guys, learning from you guys, because I want to make sure that I do the very best I can with my ability every single day. So I appreciate that from you guys. We shall talk to you soon. Signing off.